everyone. You ever feel like AI kind of just, I don't know, exploded into like everything?
It really does feel that way sometimes, doesn't it?
Right.
One minute it's science fiction, the next minute it's telling us what the weather's going to be like or, keeping spam out of our inboxes. It's wild.
Right. And this whole episode could be me geeking out about all that, but before we get lost in the AI sauce, let's do some definition work. We sent over some articles about the stages of AI development. So, where do we even begin? Like what are we actually talking about when we say AI?
It's a good question because, like you said, it is everywhere, but it can be kind of vague.
Yeah.
At its core, it's a branch of computer science, right?
Mhm.
And it's all about making machines do things that, well, normally we think only humans can do. But we're not talking about robots having existential crises just yet, at least not in this part of the deep dive. Smart in the AI world basically means machines that can learn from information and then actually, make decisions based on what they've learned.
Yeah. Okay, so the learning part, that's where algorithms come in, right? I feel like I hear that word all the time now.
Exactly. Algorithms, see, think of them like sets of instructions, kind of like a super detailed recipe, but for a computer, and the computer follows it to the letter. But, and here's the really cool part. Some of these algorithms, they can actually learn as they go. They can change the recipe based on new information. It's like a chef who invents incredible new dishes just by watching you eat.
Okay, you officially blew my mind with that one. But okay, so we've got these like algorithms cooking up intelligence, but how smart can they actually get? Like our sources talk about these 7 stages of AI. Is that basically like a roadmap for how this whole thing is going to play out?
Yeah, you could think of it that way. It gives us a framework. Like we start with really basic instructions, and then who knows? The sky's the limit, maybe even beyond the sky.
So no need to dig out the robot apocalypse survival guide just yet then.
Not just yet, but it is interesting to think about.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, with that in mind, let's start breaking down these stages, shall we? AI 1.0, stage 1, rule-based systems. Okay, I feel like I can already guess what this is, but give us an example of AI in its early days.
You know those chess programs people play against?
Yeah.
Like the really early ones.
Mm.
They were all rule-based, programmed with every single rule of chess, every possible move. Or have you ever heard of Eliza, one of the very first chatbots? Way back in the 60s, they came up with this thing. It was really basic. You use keywords to mimic conversation. Pretty amazing for the time, but limited because it was just following its programming.
Okay, so very if this, then that. Not a lot of wiggle room. Useful, but not exactly independent, right?
Right. They do what they're told, which is great, but they can't really handle anything new or unexpected. And that takes us to
Stage 2, context, awareness, and retention. This is where things start to feel, I don't know, a little more personal, right? Like the machines are starting to remember stuff about us.
totally. This is all about AI that learns what you like, what you normally do, that kind of thing. Think about like Siri or Google Assistant. They don't just follow orders. They adapt to how you use them. Imagine you walk in the door and your phone's like, hey, I already ordered your coffee, just how you like it. And oh, by the way, I rescheduled that meeting for tomorrow because I know you like to listen to this deep dive on Tuesdays.
Now that is some seriously futuristic stuff. I can get behind that. But let's be real for a sec. Even our digital assistants today, they're not exactly perfect, right? Like sometimes they miss the mark. Is that because they're still kind of limited in their own way?
You're totally right. They're great at what they're designed for, but try asking your smart speaker to write you a poem or discuss the meaning of life. It's probably going to be a short conversation.
Right. Which brings us to
Stage 3.
stage 3, domain-specific mastery. Okay, let me guess. This is where AI starts getting really, really good at very specific things.
Exactly. They become masters of their domain. Think of IBM's Watson, right? The one that was on Jeopardy a few years back and just dominated.
Oh yeah, that was amazing to watch.
These AIs, they're imagine a chess prodigy who can beat 10 grandmasters at once blindfolded, but ask them to, I don't know, tell a joke and they're completely lost.
So incredibly good, but in a very narrow way. I'm starting to see a pattern here. But where do we go from AI that can beat us at trivia? I feel like things are about to get really interesting.
Oh yeah, buckle up because at stage 4, things start to get really wild. This is where we move beyond just knowing a lot of information. Stage 4 is all about AI that can actually think.
AI that can think. Okay, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are diving into stage 4, the thinkers and reasoners. Don't go anywhere. And we are back, folks. Okay, before the break, we were talking about AI that can not only use information, but actually reason about it. Stage 4 thinking and reasoning systems. I am ready to have my mind blown wide open.
Yeah, this is where things get really cool because now we're talking about AI that can learn strategies and not just learn them, but adapt them, based on what's happening. It's like, remember those early chess programs we were talking about?
Yeah.
Stage 4 is like if those programs suddenly started inventing brand new chess moves that nobody had ever seen before.
Okay, now that is impressive. It's one thing to follow a recipe, but it's a whole other thing to be like, you know what? I'm going to invent a whole new cuisine. What's an example of an AI that's doing this kind of thinking?
So there's this AI, AlphaGo. It was developed by Google's DeepMind. And they set it loose on this really complex game called Go. Have you heard of it?
Go. I think so, but remind me what that one's all about.
Right. So Go is an ancient Chinese game, right? And it's famous for being insanely complex. Like, we're talking, there are more possible board positions in Go than there are atoms in the entire observable universe.
Okay, my brain just like short-circuited trying to even imagine that.
Right. It's mind-boggling. But even for really experienced players, Go is about strategy and intuition, not just crunching numbers.
Okay, so how does an AI even begin to wrap its head around a game like that?
Well, they basically let AlphaGo teach itself. It played millions and millions of games against itself, learning as it went, and it developed this whole playing style that nobody had ever seen before.
And it actually won against like world champion Go players, right?
Mm.
I vaguely remember hearing about this.
Oh, yeah. It was huge. Because up until that point, everybody thought, okay, machines can be good at, like, logic puzzles and stuff, but they can't really think strategically like a human. And then AlphaGo came along and was like, hold my digital beer.
That must have really shaken things up. So what you're saying is we've got AI that can not only beat us at Jeopardy, but can also outmaneuver us on a game board that has more possibilities than, like, all the grains of sand on all the beaches on Earth.
Pretty wild, right?
Okay, you have officially made this AI newbie both really excited about the future and also kind of terrified. This feels like, I don't know, like the dawn of a new era or something. Where do we even go from here? Like, if AI can already do all that.
Well, that's where things start to sound like they're straight out of science fiction, but I swear, this is real. We have to talk about Stage 5 artificial general intelligence.
AGI.
Okay, AGI.
Yeah.
It sounds very official and also like something I should be very impressed by. What are we talking about when we say artificial general intelligence?
So AGI, this is like the ultimate goal for a lot of AI researchers. It's the quest to create a machine that's basically as smart as a human, but in every way. Not just good at one thing, but capable of doing anything a human can do.
Okay, hold on a sec. So we're not just talking about a digital assistant who knows when my dry cleaning is ready. We're talking about something that could, like, write a screenplay and decompose a symphony and maybe even solve climate change all before lunchtime. Exactly. It's about more than just being really good at one thing. It's about being adaptable, creative. Like, think about how humans can see connections between things that seem totally unrelated, or how we can figure something out even if we don't have all the information. That's the kind of intelligence AGI is aiming for.
My mind is officially blown. But be honest, how close are we to actually creating something that's like genuinely intelligent?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we're not quite there yet. Even though we've got things like GPT and all those large language models, there's still a far cry from true AGI.
So no HAL 9000 just yet.
Not today. But the progress we're making is incredible, especially in the last few years. And here's something to keep in mind. AI development, it's not like this straight line of progress. It's more like, things are moving along and then suddenly, boom, everything speeds up exponentially.
So you're saying things could get really, really, really fast. Okay, now I am equal parts excited and terrified. But we're already at stage 5. Before I spiral into an existential crisis, what comes next? Stage 6, hit me.
All right, stage 6, buckle up. This is where we get into the realm of what a lot of people find both super exciting and also kind of unsettling, artificial superintelligence, or ASI.
Artificial superintelligence. Okay, yeah, that definitely sounds like we've graduated from really smart to potentially unstoppable. Break it down for me. What are we talking about here?
Okay, picture this. An AI that's not just smarter than any human who's ever lived, but so smart it can basically solve any problem you throw at it. Climate change. Solved. Poverty. Gone. Unlocking the secrets of the universe. Piece of cake.
So AI that can end world hunger, A&D, write a hit song about it all before breakfast.
Exactly. We're talking about an intelligence so advanced, it could basically reshape the world as we know it.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean about exciting and unsettling. I mean, it sounds amazing, but also like, what happens if we create something that smart? Do we even have any control at that point?
That is the big question,
Yeah.
right? It's something that scientists, philosophers, everybody's debating.
It's like we're sailing into uncharted waters here, both with the technology itself and with what it means for, like, humanity.
Mm.
And speaking of uncharted waters, stage 7, I have a feeling it's about to get really real.
Fasten your seatbelts because stage 7 is where things get really wild, my friend. We're talking about the singularity.
Okay, I'm back, and I'll be honest, after that last segment, I kind of feel like I need to go lie down for a while. Artificial superintelligence, the singularity, it's a lot.
It definitely makes you think, right? It's like, where does it all end?
Seriously. But I think it's important to remember that AI isn't just some like abstract concept. It's not just happening in some lab somewhere. It's already here.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
AI is everywhere.
like, give me an example. What's something that's powered by AI that like most people interact with every day but probably don't even think about?
Oh, easy. Think about, when you're browsing for something to watch. It's like, oh, because you watch this, you might also like.
Ooh, yeah, the recommendations. I love those.
Those are powered by AI. Or, I mean, how about like GPS navigation? Like the fact that we can just hop in our cars and get like real-time traffic updates and stuff. AI is doing all the heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Okay, see, that makes me feel a little bit better, knowing that AI is already kind of making our lives easier in a lot of ways. But I think the big fear that a lot of people have, and I'll admit I kind of feel this way too sometimes, is what happens to jobs? Like, is AI going to automate everything? Are we all going to be out of a job in 5 years?
It's a big question, and it's a real concern, right? I mean, there's no denying that AI is already changing the job market. And yes, some jobs are going to become automated. There's no way around that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that every time there's a big technological shift, it creates new opportunities too.
Okay, so it's not necessarily a zero-sum game.
Exactly. Think about like the printing press. When that came along, it was a huge deal.
Right.
And yeah, it meant that scribes, people who used to copy books by hand, their jobs changed, for sure. But the printing press also created a whole bunch of new industries and jobs.
Okay, so more like we need to be ready to adapt.
Exactly. It's all about adapting. And it's not just about technical skills either. It's more about like being curious, being willing to learn new things, that kind of stuff.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've gone from the really early days of AI, the rule-based systems, all the way to like the mind-blowing singularity. It's been a wild ride. What's the one big takeaway you hope people walk away with today?
For me, the most important thing to remember is that AI, it's a tool. That's all it is. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for, well, not so good. So it's really up to us, all of us, to decide how we want to use it, how we want to shape its development.
I love that. A call to action. This isn't just about like ones and zeros. It's about choices we're making right now that are going to shape the future. And hey, maybe this conversation will inspire some folks out there to be the ones who create that future.
That's what I'm hoping for.
And on that note, I think it's time for us to sign off. Huge thank you to our expert for this incredible journey into the world of AI. It's been enlightening. And to our listeners, as always, we love your questions, so keep them coming. And we will see you next time for another deep dive.